Today on Network Africa, the Egypt airplane debris which has been found will be examined by investigators from Egypt, the UK and France. A second Chibok girl is found. We speak to the spokesperson for the Chibok Parents Group. Plus, today is Friday, our Africa Tech segment up ahead. Hello everyone, I am Amarachi Obani. The massive search for the crashed Egypt Air flight has yielded results as the country's military says debris from the plane has been recovered in the Mediterranean. Flight MS804 was en route from Paris to Cairo with 66 passengers and crew when it vanished yesterday morning. Egypt's army spokesperson said wreckage and passenger belongings were found 290 kilometers off the coast of Alexandria in Egypt. Greek, Egyptian, French and UK military units have been taking part in the search operation near the Greek Karpathos island. VOA's Edward Urena joins us from Cairo with more on this. Edward, thank you for joining us on Network Africa. Now that we do know that the Egypt Air MS804 is most likely crashed, how long could it be before we know how it crashed or what could have happened on that plane?
Probably we won't know for certain until they find the black boxes to the plane, and it's not clear where the bulk of the wreckage is. They found some wreckage, but not the fuselage of the plane, and it's very deep. The waters are very deep in the area where the plane is thought to have gone down.
But what are authorities saying about this? Are they giving out any details about what could have happened or anything that could, give some comfort to the families of those who had, relatives on that plane?
There is a great deal of speculation about the possible causes. So many different scenarios that it's difficult to say, and none of them are coming out of official sources. So I don't know that we can really conclude with certainty, but one of the theories is that there was a struggle in the cockpit given the floundering of the plane before it went down. And another theory by a French pilot was that there was a bomb somewhere in the back of the plane which could have disabled the control mechanism, causing it to spin out of control. So, not clear.
Words of comfort are authorities giving to families who had relatives on that plane? I mean, are they giving them any information? Is there some talk about compensation, or what sort of comfort are they providing for those who are probably in mourning right now because of this crash?
Well, some of the relatives were complaining that they didn't get the kind of information or the kind of help they were hoping for, but I mean, given the circumstances, I suppose they would be upset anyway, so it's tough to say. But at the same time, the government has said, according to the TV, Egyptian TV, that they were planning to compensate, so it's not clear how much, though.
Okay, Edward, what about the other countries that also had nationals on that plane? The UK, France, as well as the Egyptian authorities. What do they all have to say? I mean, I know they already have, investigators down at the scene of this crash, all trying to gather whatever possible clues there are to finding out what happened on that plane. But what else have they been saying about what happened?
I mean, the French president said and the prime minister both said they were leaving options open and they were considering all possibilities. No conclusion was reached on their end, and they're part of the investigation. The British also, they're part of the investigation, given that Airbus, they're part of the Airbus investigation since it was an Airbus plane that went down. And that team is here right now. They've been fairly closed-lipped, so I don't know that we can say anyone's jumped to a conclusion yet.
Well, thanks a lot, Edward. A really unfortunate incident for Egypt. Thank you for joining us on Network Africa.
My pleasure.
It has been a pretty rough year for Egypt, which has had to deal with all sorts of challenges, ranging from the murder of Giulio Regeni to paying families of tourists who were mistaken for terrorists and killed last year, to coming under criticism for its anti-terrorism law. A list is pretty long, but Egypt has made attempts to redeem its image and save its tourism industry by offering to mediate in the Israeli-Palestinian talks and pay families of tourists who were killed last year, as we said earlier. But these redemption efforts could be futile in the light of what has just happened with the plane which crashed en route from Paris to Cairo. Joining us to answer a lot more questions on this is Channels TV's business desk editor, Bosun Omofaye. Bosun, great to have you on Network Africa. I mean,
thank you, Amarachi.
This is one of those incidents, you know, you just wish never happened. I mean, 56 people on board that plane, really sad. But you've had your eye on Egypt. You've been monitoring the economy and so on. Egypt has been troubled in this 1 year. How do you think this crash could affect the economy at the end of the day?
It's going to be really tough for Egypt. Early this year, February to be precise, there was an Africa Investors Forum in Egypt. The president himself presided over that. Billions of dollars were pledged by global investors to come in on Egypt. Nigerian president was also in attendance, and a few other African leaders. Folks came in from all around the world looking at the tourism industry, entertainment, agriculture, animal husbandry, and whatever. And the country has really tried to also make sure that the business boom along the corridors of the peninsula, because of where the vessels carrying gas and oil to Europe and other parts of the world was. So that was good as of February, and everybody thought that this was going to be the way forward for Egypt. But this was just something, the bolt out of the blues, and it's going to hit the economy really hard. What has happened in the last 24 hours? The stock market has lost about $450 million, about $500 million was the shutdown in the Egyptian stock market. The news happened, the stock market went down almost 3%, recovered slightly before the end of yesterday, but still negative about 2%. It's been a tough Friday as well now. If you look at the tourism industry specifically, you're looking at sometime around October 2015, you have almost 1 million tourists coming into Egypt. Then you had November 2015, then you had the Russian plane that was down at the Sinai Peninsula and what have you. Then the figures started coming down. January, February this year, first quarter, it took about 350,000 from 900,000 tourists. With this, perhaps this figure will go even below 350,000 per month.
And it's really sad because tourism really is Egypt's main revenue earner.
Yeah, if you look at about 10 years ago, that was bringing about 10 to 15% of its foreign exchange revenue. So it was good business.
Yeah, but how can it bounce back really from this? How can it bounce back from all of this? I mean, you're painting a very bleak picture, you know, for the Egyptian economy. How can it bounce back? How can they get it back? How can they get tourism back and get people back into the country?
With insecurity and political instability on one hand and insecurity on the other, very difficult to do. And I think the first thing the Egyptian government authorities need to do is to quickly begin to diversify the economy. They need to begin to look at the bad guys anywhere in the world, whether they're Boko Haram or ISIL or whatever you call them, they know that the first part of your business that will be affected by insecurity is tourism. Look at Paris. Look at what France had gone through. Look at what happened yesterday. The shares of Airbus went down about 1.5% when the news happened. Lufthansa, Air France, all the major airlines in the world will get hit. So the world of aviation and tourism are getting locked into these insecurity concerns such that investors will begin to take a second look at it. But that will not stop people from traveling anyway. It wouldn't stop people from going to where they want to see the good things around the world. But it's going to be a tough one. The best way, agriculture, animal husbandry, oil and gas, should be what the Egyptian government should be thinking of very quickly now, and try to see how they can move things away from tourism, which had been the backbone of the economy.
It's interesting you say that, because you mentioned Egypt has been plagued by terrorism. Of course, that's some of the problems that other African countries are also going through. They're also being plagued by insurgency, as well as the attacks by ISIS, which seems to be trying to gain, real stronghold here in Africa and West Africa. But what can they learn, from what has happened? I know you're not an aviation expert, but what really can other countries learn from what has happened, from the way Egypt is approaching this and the way other countries are running to their aid, as well as what they can do to up their own game?
We just have to find a way around in the world in which we don't allow the terrorists to create a world in which fear thy neighbor upstages love thy neighbor. Now, this is hate thy neighbor, or fear thy neighbor, in which you begin to fear that you don't want to fly to certain countries or fly out of those destinations because you're scared of what might happen to you mid-air. That will have to be curtailed. But if you look at Brussels as well, look at the metro line is also being targeted, and that is a mode of transportation, moving people and goods and services, and people want to have a good time. That means, therefore, that we need to collaborate more. The governments across Africa would have to work together more, share intelligence, share knowledge, and make sure that there's a better coordination of the airspace across Africa, and reach out to those countries that are beginning to look like the outposts for terrorists coming through: Brussels, France, Germany, a few others along that corridor, Turkey.
And it looks like there is no better time for Africa to integrate than now.
We just need to integrate globally. In terms of our own intelligence, we need to up the game such that we can share information ahead of time, we can train our own people, and we can better prepare for things like that. Of course, this is a new world in which terrorism has really come to stay, which is the bad news.
Wilson, thanks for joining us on Network Africa. Appreciate your analyzing this for us. When we come back after the break on Network Africa, more eyebrows are raised as a second Chibok girl is found. Is she really one of the missing students? We'll find out after the break.